The alarm was so loud that Kang Daeho hit his head on the metal pipe above him. He cursed and rubbed the sore spot. Oil dripped from his hands onto his worn jacket. The atmospheric processor had been acting strange all morning, and now the station alarms were screaming. Daeho crawled out from under the machine and wiped his hands on a dirty rag. He was 32 years old, tall and thin, with permanent grease stains under his fingernails. His workshop on Terminus 7 was small and cluttered. Tools hung on every wall. Parts from 100 different machines covered the workbenches. The alarm kept blaring. Daeho walked to the window and looked out at the dark space beyond the station. His heart stopped. A massive ship floated just outside. It was like nothing he had ever seen. The hull was smooth and silver, almost like glass. Lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that hurt to look at. It was a Velshara warship. The Velshara never came to human colonies. They thought humans were primitive, dirty, not worth their time. Daeho had only seen them in news reports. They ruled 47 star systems and had technology that made human engineering look like children playing with toys. The door to his workshop burst open. Lee Minho rushed in. He was the station commander and Daeho's oldest friend. They had served together in the Frontier Corps years ago. Minho looked worried. Daeho, you need to come with me. Right now, what's happening? Why are the Velshara here? Someone wants to see you. Someone important. Minho grabbed his arm. Please, just come. They ran through the narrow corridors of the station. Other workers pressed against the walls, staring at them. Everyone was scared. The Velshara had weapons that could destroy planets. One warship could wipe out their entire colony in seconds. They reached the main docking bay. A small shuttle sat in the center, its surface shimmering like oil on water. 4 tall figures stood guard around it. They wore armor that seemed to shift colors. Their faces were hidden behind smooth masks, but Daeho's eyes went to the woman sitting on a cargo container. She was Velshara, that much was clear. She was almost 7 feet tall, with skin that looked like pale blue crystal. Patterns of light moved under her skin, flowing from her head down to her chest, but the lights were flickering, uneven, wrong. She looked up as they approached. Her eyes were large and silver, with no pupils Daeho could see. When she tried to stand, she stumbled. One of the guards caught her. You are the mechanic. Her voice was soft but had a strange echo to it. The one who makes broken things work. Daeho nodded slowly. I fix machines, yes. I need you to fix something for me. She touched her chest. Through her semi-transparent skin, Daeho could see something glowing inside her. It looked like a crystal, but it was cracked. Dark lines spread through it like a spider web. The light inside pulsed irregularly. That's your heart? Yes, it was damaged 3 days ago. My doctors cannot fix it. My engineers cannot repair it. I have perhaps 3 days left to live. She paused. I am Queen Arundel of the Velshara Empire. I am offering you a fortune to save my life. Before Daeho could respond, she collapsed. The guards rushed forward, but Daeho was faster. He caught her before she hit the ground. She was lighter than he expected. Her skin was cold, like touching ice. Get her to my workshop, Daeho said. Minho, I need the medical scanner from the clinic. And find Park Jiwon. Tell him it's urgent. They carried the queen through the station. Daeho cleared his main workbench, pushing tools and parts onto the floor. They laid her down carefully. Her breathing was shallow. The lights under her skin were barely moving now. Daeho had never worked on a living being before. He fixed machines, engines, life support systems. But as he looked at the queen's heart, he realized it was not that different. It was a machine too, just made of something other than metal. Park Jiwon arrived with the medical scanner. He was a doctor who had fled from a war-torn colony 5 years ago. His hands shook as he ran the scanner over the queen's chest. This is impossible, Jiwon whispered. Her heart is biological and mechanical at the same time. The crystal structure stores energy and pumps blood simultaneously. But look at the damage. Daeho studied the scans. The heart was beautiful in its complexity, but someone had used a weapon on it. A molecular disruptor, maybe. The damage was spreading slowly through the crystal matrix, killing healthy cells as it moved. Can you fix it? Minho asked. Not the way her people would fix it. Daeho touched the queen's cold hand. Their technology repairs itself, right? But the damage is spreading faster than it can heal. By the time we got the right materials, she would be dead. The queen's eyes opened. She looked at him with those strange silver eyes. I can pay you anything. Gold. Platinum. Technology beyond your understanding. Just name your price. Deho thought about his sister. She had died 6 years ago. A heart condition. He could not afford the treatment. He watched her fade away over 3 months, knowing that somewhere in the galaxy there was medicine that could save her, but it cost too much. He had sworn never to let someone die because of money again. I don't want your gold, Deho said, but I might be able to help you anyway. The Queen stared at him. So did everyone else in the room. What? She whispered. Your people build things to be perfect, every part exactly right, beautiful but delicate. Deho gestured at his cluttered workshop. We build things to survive. We use whatever we have. We make it work even when it shouldn't. You want to experiment on me with scrap metal? The Queen's voice was weak, but there was disbelief in it. I want to save your life with what I have available. Deho met her eyes. I can't promise it will be pretty. I can't promise it will work. But I can promise I will try everything I know to keep you alive. Arundel was quiet for a long moment. The lights under her skin flickered weaker and weaker. Finally she nodded. Do it. Deho turned to Minho. I need parts, ship capacitors, synthetic muscle fiber from the medbay, the AI core from that broken maintenance drone. He looked at Jiwan. And I need you to keep her stable while I work. As Minho ran to gather materials, Deho pulled out his tools. A young woman burst into the workshop. Yunhana was 19, his apprentice, with short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Is it true? Is that really the Velshara Queen? Hana stopped when she saw the body on the workbench. Oh, Hana, I need your help. We're going to build a bypass system for her heart. A bypass? For an alien biocrystal heart? With what? Deho smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. With whatever we can find. It's what we do best. The next hours were chaos. Minho returned with armfuls of parts. Deho spread them across every surface. He studied the medical scans, making notes and drawings. The Queen drifted in and out of consciousness. Every time she woke, her eyes found Deho watching him work. He explained as he worked, mostly to organize his own thoughts. The crystal heart converted emotional energy into life force. It was not just a pump. It was a battery, a processor, and a regulator all at once. The corruption was spreading because the heart kept trying to repair itself, using the same damaged matrix. So we don't try to fix the crystal, Deho said. We build a second system, a support structure that takes over some of the functions while the crystal heals naturally. With ship parts, Hana said flatly. With ship parts, Deho confirmed. The capacitors store energy. The synthetic fiber can contract like muscle. The AI regulates the whole system. He looked down at the unconscious Queen. It won't be elegant, but it might keep her alive. As the night stretched on, Deho assembled the device. It looked crude. Metal struts and plastic tubing. Wires wrapped in electrical tape. The AI core blinked with simple green lights. Next to the beautiful crystal heart, it looked like trash. But it was functional. And functional was all that mattered. Deho held the bypass system in his oil-stained hands. The Queen's guards watched him with suspicion. Jiwan looked terrified. Hana chewed her lip nervously. Minho stood by the door, ready to evacuate the station if the Velshara decided to take revenge. The Queen opened her eyes one more time. She saw the crude device. For a moment, something like humor crossed her alien face. Scrap metal, she whispered. The finest scrap metal on Terminus 7, Deho replied. She almost smiled. Then she closed her eyes and nodded. Deho took a deep breath. His hands were steady as he began to work. He had 3 days to save a Queen's life with nothing but junk and hope. In the Frontier Corps, they had a saying, impossible just takes a little longer. He hoped that saying was true. Because if it was not, he was about to start a war by killing the most powerful woman in the galaxy. The surgery took 12 hours. Deho's hands never shook, even though his mind screamed at him that this was insane. He was cutting into the chest of an alien Queen with tools meant for fixing pipes and engines. The Queen stayed awake through all of it. She had to. Her heart needed her emotional patterns to function. If she went unconscious, the heart would stop entirely. Jiwan monitored her vital signs. Hana assisted with the tools. The Queen's guards stood in the corners of the workshop, their weapons ready. If Deho failed, they would kill everyone in the station. That was clear from their body language. Tell me about your empire, Deho said as he worked. Talking kept her focused. Kept her from thinking about the pain. Arendel's voice was tight. Why do you want to know? Because I am curious. Your people rule 47 star systems. You have technology we cannot even imagine. But you came to a human colony for help. That is interesting. She was quiet while he attached a metal strut to the edge of her crystal heart. The connection had to be delicate. Too much pressure and the crystal would shatter. My people believe in perfection, Arundel finally said. Every building, every machine, every person must meet the highest standards. We have achieved greatness through this philosophy. But perfection is fragile. When something breaks, we do not know how to fix it with less than perfect materials. We can only replace it with something equally perfect, and that takes time. Deho nodded. He connected a small capacitor to the metal frame. It would store excess energy from her heart, releasing it when needed. Basic engineering. Simple but effective. My sister had a bad heart too, he said quietly. Human hearts are just muscle and blood vessels. Simple compared to yours. But the treatment was expensive. I could not afford it. She died? Yes, 6 years ago. I watched her fade away over 3 months. I swore I would never let someone die because they could not afford help. He looked up at her silver eyes. That is why I do not want your gold. Arundel stared at him. In her empire, everything had a price. Power, influence, even life itself could be bought and sold. But this human refused payment to save her life because of a promise to a dead sister. Your people are strange, she whispered. We get that a lot. Hour by hour, the bypass system took shape. Synthetic muscle fiber wrapped around the crystal like protective webbing. The AI core connected to her nervous system through thin wires. Capacitors stored and released energy in rhythm with her heartbeat. It was ugly. The beautiful crystal heart now had metal and plastic growing from it like a mechanical parasite. But Deho could see it working. The corruption had stopped spreading. The dark cracks in the crystal were no longer growing. Then came the critical moment. Deho had to activate the AI regulator. It would take over some of the heart's functions, giving the crystal time to heal. But if the AI was too efficient, it would drain her emotions and turn her cold. This is going to feel strange, Deho warned. He pressed the activation switch. The AI hummed to life. Green lights blinked across the metal frame. The capacitors began charging and discharging in steady rhythm. Arundel gasped. The bioluminescent patterns under her skin flared bright, then began to fade. Her breathing became mechanical, precise. Her eyes went distant. Something is wrong, Ji-won said urgently. Her emotional responses are dropping. Brain activity is becoming too regular. Deho saw the problem immediately. The AI was designed for efficiency. It optimized every function, removing waste and irregularity. But emotions were messy, inefficient. The AI was trying to eliminate them. Hana, get me the programming interface. Now Hana threw him a handheld device. Deho connected it to the AI core. His fingers flew across the screen. He had minutes, maybe seconds, before the queen became an emotionless shell. He could not make the AI less efficient. That would defeat the purpose. But he could make it more chaotic. He added randomness to its decision-making. Probability factors, weighted variables that changed based on unpredictable inputs. He was teaching a machine to feel. The code compiled. He uploaded it to the AI core. The green lights flickered, then stabilized in a new pattern. Not regular, not quite random. Something in between. Arendel's eyes focused again. Color returned to her face. The lights under her skin began moving in their normal, flowing patterns. But now there was something else. A slight irregularity, a pulse that synchronized with the mechanical components. I can feel it, Arundel whispered. Both of them. My heart and your machine, they are working together. Deho sagged against the workbench. His hands were shaking now.
The adrenaline was wearing off.
He had just performed surgery on an alien with spare parts and prayer, and it had worked. How do you feel? Ji-won asked, scanning her again. Arundel sat up slowly. She touched her chest, feeling the dual rhythm. Strange, different, but stronger. I have not felt this alive in years. She stood. Her guards rushed forward, but she waved them away. She took a few steps, then a few more. The hybrid heart pulsed steadily. Crystal and metal. Biological and mechanical. Alien and human. She looked down at herself. The metal framework was visible through her semi-transparent skin. It was crude, asymmetrical, completely at odds with the elegant crystal structure, but it was beautiful in its own way. The way a scar could be beautiful. Proof of survival. You did it, she said softly. You saved my life with scrap metal. Deho smiled wearily. I told you. We make broken things work. It is what we do. Arundel walked to the window. She looked out at the stars. Her empire was out there, 47 systems filled with perfect technology and perfect people. But none of them had been able to save her. Only this tired human in his cluttered workshop with his oil-stained hands and simple tools. "I need to return home," she said. "My people will be worried. There are those who would use my absence to seize power. Can you travel? The heart is stable, but it is still healing. I must. An empire does not rule itself." She turned to face him. "Come with me." Deho blinked. "What? You created this heart. You understand how it works. If something goes wrong, I will need you." She paused. "And I think my people need to see what humanity can do. Perhaps it is time we stop dismissing your species as primitive." Minho stepped forward. "Deho, you do not have to go. This is not your responsibility." But Deho was thinking about his sister again, about the medicine he could not afford, about the wealthy civilizations that hoarded technology while others died. If he went to the Velshara homeworld, maybe he could change that. Maybe he could make sure no one else watched a loved one die because of credits and politics. "I will go," he said. "But Hana comes with me. If I am going to represent human engineering, I want someone who knows what she is doing." Hana's eyes went wide. "Me? Go to the Velshara homeworld? Unless you would rather stay here and fix atmospheric processors for the rest of your life." Hana grinned. "When do we leave?" 2 hours later, Deho stood in the shuttle bay with a small bag of personal items. Hana bounced excitedly beside him, unable to believe they were going to see the heart of the Velshara Empire. Minho had given them emergency beacons and made them promise to call if anything went wrong. Arundel approached them. She looked stronger now, more like the queen she was supposed to be, but there was something different in her eyes. Something that had not been there before. "Are you ready?" she asked. Deho looked at the massive warship waiting for them. "No, but I rarely am," she almost smiled. "Good. If you were ready, I would worry that you did not understand what you were getting into." They boarded the shuttle. As it lifted off from Terminus 7, Deho watched his home shrink behind them. The small station on the edge of nowhere. The place where he had built a life from scrap and determination. He did not know if he would ever see it again. But he knew that his sister would have wanted him to go. To help where he could. To fix what was broken, even when it seemed impossible. The shuttle docked with the warship. As they walked through corridors that gleamed like polished mirrors, Deho realized he was about to enter a world completely different from anything he had known. A world of perfection and beauty and rigid tradition. He hoped his scrap metal and simple philosophy would be enough, because he had a feeling that saving the Queen's life was only the beginning. The real challenge was still to come. The Velshara homeworld was called Alyros. When the warship entered orbit, Deho pressed his face against the window. He had never seen anything like it. The planet glowed. Cities of crystalline towers reached into the sky, each one perfectly designed. Bridges of light connected the buildings. Gardens floated in the air, held up by technology Deho could not begin to understand. Everything was smooth, elegant, beautiful. It was also dying. Arundel stood beside him. "Do you see it?" she asked quietly. Deho nodded. "Some of the towers are dark. Those bridges flicker, and that large building on the coast has cracks in it. Our infrastructure is failing, has been for years, but we cannot fix it without admitting that our perfect designs have flaws, so we ignore the problems and hope they go away." She touched her chest, feeling the hybrid heart. "I was the same way. I ignored the pain until I nearly died." The shuttle landed in front of the royal palace. It was enormous, made of transparent crystal that shifted colors in the light. Thousands of Velshara waited to greet their queen. They wore robes that looked like liquid silk. Their skin glowed with beautiful patterns. When Arundel stepped out, the crowd erupted in cheers. But the cheers turned to shocked silence when they saw her chest. The metal framework was clearly visible through her skin. Crude human technology attached to their perfect queen. Deho and Hana followed her out. They felt like insects next to the tall, elegant Velshara. Deho still wore his stained work clothes. Hana clutched her tool bag like a lifeline. An older Velshara male approached. His robes were more elaborate than the others. His face was hard. "Your Majesty, we are relieved to see you alive. But what have you done to yourself?" "Prime Consul Thravik. I have survived an assassination attempt thanks to human ingenuity." Arundel gestured to Deho. "This is Kang Deho, the engineer who saved my life." Thravik looked at Deho the way someone might look at dirt on their shoe. A human. In the royal palace. This is unprecedented. Many things will be unprecedented from now on. Arendel's voice was firm. Deho and his apprentice are my honored guests. They will be treated with respect. The next few days were difficult. Deho and Hana were given rooms in the palace. The rooms were beautiful but uncomfortable. The furniture was too tall. The lights were too bright. The temperature was too cold. Everywhere they went, Velshara stared at them. Some looked curious. Most looked disgusted. Deho heard the whispers, primitive, dirty, inferior. Hana tried to stay positive. At least the technology is amazing.
Did you see those floating gardens?
I want to know how they work. They work through massive energy expenditure, Deho said. I did some calculations. Each garden uses enough power to run our entire station for a month. It is impressive but wasteful. Arundel summoned them to her private chambers. She looked tired. The political situation was worse than she had expected. Thravik is demanding that I abdicate. He says a queen with a mongrel heart cannot represent our people. He has support among the older nobles. He tried to kill you, Deho said flatly. Did you tell them that? I have no proof. Only suspicion. If I accuse him without evidence, it will start a civil war. She sat down heavily. He wants me gone so he can maintain our isolationist policies. He sees humans as a threat to our way of life. Maybe we are, Deho said. Your way of life is killing you. This planet, this empire, it is all falling apart because you refuse to adapt. Arundel looked at him sharply. Then she stood and walked to the window. Come, let me show you something. She took them through the palace into the lower levels. The beauty faded the deeper they went. Down here the walls were cracked. Pipes leaked. Lights flickered. It looked like the maintenance tunnels of any human station. This is what we hide, Arundel said. All our perfect technology requires perfect maintenance. But we have built so much that we cannot keep up. Systems fail. We patch them temporarily. Then they fail again. Hana ran her hand along a leaking pipe. This seal is wrong. You are using crystalline gaskets on a fluid system. They look nice, but they are too rigid. Basic synthetic rubber would work better. Rubber is not elegant. No, but it works. Hana looked at the queen. You could fix most of this in a week with simple human materials. It would not be pretty, but it would be functional. Arundel smiled sadly. That is what Thravik fears. If we start using human solutions, we admit that our perfection is a lie. And if our perfection is a lie, what does that say about our entire civilization? That night someone tried to kill Arundel again. Nanites in her evening meal. Tiny machines designed to corrode metal. They were meant to destroy the human components of her heart, but they failed. The metal framework was too irregular. The nanites could not find consistent structures to attack. They kept recalibrating, trying to understand the chaotic design. By the time they adapted, Arundel's immune system had destroyed them. Deho examined her the next morning. The heart saved you. The imperfection in the design confused the nanites. A perfect system would have been destroyed, Arundel laughed. It was not a happy sound. So my mongrel heart is more resilient than a pure one. Thravik will hate that. He will try again. I know. That is why I am going to force his hand. She looked at Deho with determination. I am calling the Imperial Court. I will show them what you did to save me. Let them decide if human methods are inferior. The Imperial Court gathered 3 days later. Thousands of nobles filled the grand chamber. They sat in tiered rows that spiraled up toward a crystal dome. At the center of the floor stood a raised platform. Deho stood on that platform, feeling small. Hana stood beside him, trying not to shake. Arundel sat on her throne above them, her hybrid heart visible to everyone. Thravik stood at the opposite side. Members of the court, we face a crisis. Our queen has been defiled by primitive technology. She has allowed humans into our most sacred spaces. She has abandoned the principles that made our empire great. Murmurs of agreement echoed through the chamber. I propose that we require the queen to undergo proper treatment, remove the human contamination, restore her heart to its pure state, or step down and allow proper leadership. Arundel rose. And if the pure state would kill me? The corruption was spreading. Your doctors and engineers could not stop it. Only this human could. Then perhaps it was your time to die. Better a martyred queen than a corrupted one. The court erupted in shouts. Some supported Thravik. Others defended the queen. Daiho watched the chaos and realized this was about more than just a heart. This was about fear. Fear of change. Fear of admitting weakness. Let the human speak. Someone shouted. The chamber fell silent. Everyone looked at Daiho. He had not prepared a speech. He had not planned to say anything. But now thousands of alien eyes stared at him, waiting. He cleared his throat.
I am just a mechanic.
I fix broken things. When your queen came to me, she was dying. I did not have perfect materials or elegant solutions. I had scrap metal and basic knowledge. He gestured at his own body. I am not elegant. My tools are crude. My methods are improvised. But they work. They work because I do not try to be perfect. I try to solve problems with what I have available. Your perfection is beautiful. Your technology is amazing. But it is also fragile. When it breaks, you cannot fix it quickly. You cannot adapt. And that fragility almost killed your queen. He pulled out a piece of metal from his pocket. Basic steel. Dull and scratched. This is not pretty. But it is strong, flexible, easy to work with. It saved your queen's life. Maybe that is worth something. Some of the younger nobles looked thoughtful. But Thravik stepped forward, his face twisted with anger. Pretty words. But words do not prove superiority. I challenge the queen's right to rule. By ancient law, I call for a trial of strength. Gasps echoed through the chamber. A trial of strength was rare. It meant combat. A fight to determine who was worthy of power. Arundel stood slowly. You dare challenge me while I am recovering? I challenge the legitimacy of your recovery. Your heart is half human. Therefore, a human must champion for you. Let us see if their crude methods can defeat Velshara perfection in combat. He pointed at Daiho. Let the mechanic fight for his queen. If he wins, we accept that humans have value. If he loses, the queen abdicates and humanity remains beneath our notice. Daiho felt his stomach drop. He was not a fighter. He was an engineer. Thravik knew that. This was a death sentence disguised as honor. But before he could speak, Arundel said, I accept. Daiho will fight for me. She looked down at him. Her silver eyes were sad but determined. I am sorry. But if we refuse, they will use it as proof of weakness. At least this way you have a chance, Daiho wanted to argue. He wanted to refuse. But he saw the desperation in her eyes. She was trapped by her own laws. And now he was trapped with her. He nodded slowly. When? Thravik smiled coldly. Tomorrow. In the Grand Arena. May the best species win. The Grand Arena was ancient. Stone seats rose in circles around a fighting floor made of polished crystal. It could hold 50,000 spectators. Every seat was full. Daiho stood in the preparation chamber beneath the arena. His hands would not stop shaking. Hana was trying to help him put on protective gear, but there was not much that would help against a genetically enhanced Velshara warrior. You do not have to do this, Hana said quietly. We could run. Get back to the ship somehow. And leave the queen to face this alone? No, she saved herself by trusting me. Now I have to trust that there is a way through this. The door opened. Arundel entered. She had changed into simpler clothing. Her hybrid heart pulsed visibly through her chest. She looked at Daiho for a long moment. I need to tell you something, she said. Before you go out there, if it is an apology, save it. I chose to come here. It is not an apology. She stepped closer. The hybrid heart has changed me, made me feel things I was trained to suppress. Emotions that our people consider weakness. Daiho waited. His own heart was beating fast. I think I am falling in love with you. The words came out in a rush. I know it is foolish. We are different species. You might die in the next hour. But I needed you to know. The heart you built does not just keep me alive. It makes me feel alive. Daiho stared at her. This alien queen, who could have anyone in the galaxy, was confessing her feelings to a grease-stained mechanic from a nowhere station. I think, he said slowly, that I am falling in love with you too. Which is really bad timing on both our parts, she laughed. It was a real laugh, not the controlled sound she used in public. Then she kissed him. It was brief, desperate, a promise or a goodbye. Do not die, she whispered against his lips. I will do my best. The doors to the arena opened. Sunlight flooded in. The roar of the crowd hit him like a physical force. Daiho walked onto the crystal floor. His legs felt like water. On the opposite side, his opponent entered. Kelvarus was 8 feet tall, covered in muscle. His skin was darker than Arendel's, with sharp geometric patterns that pulsed with energy. He wore minimal armor. He did not need more. His body itself was a weapon, engineered for combat over generations. Deho looked small and fragile in comparison. He had basic protective gear and a simple staff. That was all the rules allowed. Thravik's voice echoed across the arena. Let this trial prove which species is superior. If the human wins, we acknowledge their worth. If Kelvaris wins, the queen abdicates and humans remain beneath our notice. A horn sounded. The fight began. Kelvaris moved like lightning. He closed the distance in seconds. His first strike would have killed Deho if it had connected, but Deho rolled aside at the last moment. Years of working in tight spaces had made him good at moving quickly. He could not match Kelvaris in strength or speed, but he could think, and thinking was what humans did best. The arena floor was crystal, but it had seams, support structures underneath. Deho had studied the arena's layout the night before. He knew where the weak points were. He led Kelvaris toward one of those weak points, dodging and weaving. Each attack came closer. His protective gear was already cracked, but he kept moving, kept thinking. Kelvaris fought with perfect form. Every movement calculated for maximum efficiency. No wasted energy. It was beautiful to watch, but it was also predictable. Deho suddenly changed direction. He struck the crystal floor with his staff, hitting a specific point. The crystal cracked, not much. Just enough. Kelvaris stepped on the crack. It widened under his weight. He stumbled. Just for a moment. But a moment was enough. Deho did not try to attack. Instead, he broke another section of floor. Then another. He was turning the perfect arena into a hazard zone. From the stands, Hana shouted, "The support beam at your 3 o'clock." "It is loose." Deho glanced where she indicated. She was right. One of the decorative columns had a crack in its base. Other humans in the crowd started shouting advice too.
Engineers and mechanics who could see the structural weaknesses. Thravik stood up.
Silence. This is not a group effort. But Arundel rose as well. You wanted to test human methods. This is their method. They work together. They share knowledge. If you silence them, you prove you fear what they can do. The humans kept shouting, and Deho kept listening. They were turning the fight into a collaborative engineering problem. How to defeat a superior opponent using environmental factors and collective intelligence. Kelvaris adapted quickly. He was smart. He started avoiding the weak points, moving more carefully, but Deho kept creating new ones. He used his staff to destabilize the floor. He knocked down decorative elements to create obstacles. The perfect arena was becoming a chaotic mess, and in chaos humans thrived while perfection struggled. But Deho was getting tired. He had taken several hits. His body was not engineered for combat. He was bleeding from a dozen small wounds. His vision was starting to blur. Kelvaris cornered him against a wall. There was nowhere left to run. The warrior raised his fist for a final strike. Deho looked up at him. Wait. Surprisingly, Kelvaris paused. You have fought with honor, Deho said, gasping for breath. You have followed every rule. But answer me this. If you kill me now, an unarmed opponent who can barely stand, does that prove Velshara's superiority? Or does it just prove you are stronger than someone who is already beaten? Kelvaris lowered his fist slightly. In his eyes, Deho saw intelligence. This was not just a mindless warrior. This was someone who understood honor. Your people value perfection, Deho continued. Perfect form. Perfect technique. But what is perfect about defeating someone who cannot truly fight back? Where is the honor in that? The arena had gone silent. Everyone was watching this exchange. Kelvaris spoke for the first time. His voice was deep and calm. You are clever, human. You use words as weapons when your body fails. But you are right. There is no honor in killing a defeated opponent. He stepped back. I yield. Chaos erupted in the stands. Velshara shouting in disbelief. Thravik screaming that Kelvaris had betrayed them. But the warrior ignored it all. He offered his hand to Deho. You fought with limited tools but unlimited creativity. That is worthy of respect. Deho took his hand. Let the massive warrior pull him to his feet. The crowd was still shouting, but he did not care. He had survived. Against all odds, he had survived. Thravik pushed through the crowd onto the arena floor. His face was twisted with rage. This is not over. Kelvaris yielded out of misplaced mercy. The trial proves nothing. It proves that humans can adapt, Arundel said, also descending to the floor. It proves that their methods, while crude, are effective. And it proves that even our greatest warriors can learn from them. Thravik pointed at her. You have been corrupted. Your mongrel heart has poisoned your judgment. I will not let you destroy our empire with this human infection. He pulled out a communication device. Activated it. Above the planet, ships appeared. Dozens of them. A private fleet loyal to Thravik. I did not want it to come to this, Thravik said, but you have left me no choice. Abdicate now, or I will take your empire by force. Your precious humans will be the first casualties. Arundel looked at the ships. Her face was calm, but Deho could see her hybrid heart beating faster. The metal framework pulsed with the stress. She had two choices. Start a civil war that would destroy her people, or surrender everything she had fought for. Deho stepped forward. There is a third option. Everyone looked at him. This battered, bleeding human who should have been dead. You asked me to fix a heart. I did that. But the real problem is not the heart. It is the system that let it break in the first place. He looked at the thousands of Velshara watching. Your empire is dying because you refuse to adapt. You choose beauty over function, pride over survival. He gestured at Arundel's chest. This heart works because it combines your elegance with our practicality. What if we did that for your entire empire? What if we worked together instead of staying separate? Thravik laughed bitterly. You want us to become half-human? To contaminate our entire civilization? I want you to survive, Deho said simply. Because from where I stand, you have two paths. Adapt and thrive, or stay pure and die. Your choice. He looked up at the ships, at Thravik, at the thousands of watching faces. But I am just a mechanic. What do I know? The silence stretched. Then someone in the crowd stood up, a young Velshara female. I want to learn human methods, she said clearly. Another stood. Our infrastructure is failing. Maybe the humans can help. More rose. The queen survived because she accepted help. Perhaps we should too. Hundreds standing now, then thousands. The younger generation, tired of watching their perfect empire crumble, ready for something new. On Thravik's communication device, a voice crackled. Sir, the fleet commanders are refusing orders. They want to hear what the human has to say. Thravik looked at his device in disbelief. His carefully planned coup was falling apart. Not because of weapons or threats, but because people were choosing hope over fear, change over stagnation. Arundel walked to Deho. She took his hand. Her hybrid heart glowed brightly. You fixed more than my heart, she said quietly so only he could hear. You fixed my future. Our future. And as the crowd cheered and Thravik fled in disgrace, Deho realized something. He had come to this planet to save one life, but maybe, just maybe, he had saved something much bigger. He had saved the possibility of change. 3 months after the trial, the Lyros had changed. The transformation was not dramatic at first. Small things. A rubber seal replacing a crystal gasket here. A simple metal support beam reinforcing an elegant but cracking tower there. But small changes added up. Deho stood in what used to be an empty palace wing. Now it was filled with workbenches and tools. Human engineers worked alongside Velshara scientists. The humans taught practical problem-solving. The Velshara taught advanced theory. Together they created solutions neither species could have developed alone. Hana was in her element. She had 10 Velshara students following her around, taking notes as she fixed a malfunctioning power conduit with spare wire and electrical tape. See, it does not need to be pretty. It just needs to work. One of the students, a young male named Varus, frowned at the repair. But the aesthetic does not matter if the system fails and people die, Hana said bluntly. You can make it pretty after you make it functional. Deho smiled. Hana had grown confident in the past months. She was no longer just his apprentice. She was becoming a teacher herself. Arundel entered the workshop. She still wore royal robes, but they were simpler now. Practical. The Velshara had learned that their queen preferred function over fashion. It had shocked them at first. Now some were starting to follow her example. How is the progress? She asked. Good. We have teams working in 12 cities now. The infrastructure repairs are ahead of schedule. Deho showed her a data pad with reports. And the cultural exchange program has 5,000 applicants. Velshara wanting to study human engineering. Humans wanting to learn your advanced sciences. Arundel read through the reports. Her hybrid heart pulsed steadily. The crystal had healed completely over the past months, but the metal framework remained. She had refused to remove it. It had become a symbol. The queen who embraced imperfection and survived. Other Velshara nobles had started requesting hybrid augmentations of their own. Not because they needed them medically, but because they wanted to show they supported the new philosophy. What had been a mark of shame had become a fashion statement. Deho found it amusing. Your people adopt new ideas quickly once they decide to adopt them. We are not so different from humans in that way. We were just afraid of change. She touched her chest. You taught me that sometimes the best solution is the one you build from whatever you have available. Speaking of building things, Deho said, pulling out a small box. I made something for you. He opened the box. Inside was a piece of jewelry. But it was not made of gold or precious gems. It was crafted from the original scrap metal he had used to save her life. The rough steel had been polished and shaped into an elegant pendant. Simple but beautiful. Arundel picked it up carefully. This is the first piece of metal I attached to your heart. I kept it when I upgraded the system last month. I thought you might want a reminder of where we started. She looked at him. Her silver eyes were bright with emotion. In the old days, she would have hidden those feelings. Now she let them show. Help me put it on? Deho fastened the chain around her neck. The crude metal pendant hung next to the elegant crystal patterns of her skin. It should have looked wrong. Instead, it looked perfect. I love you, Arundel said quietly. Not a confession this time. Just a fact, I love you too, Deho replied. Even though you are way out of my league. You saved my life with scrap metal. I think that puts you in a league of your own. She smiled. Besides, I offered you gold. You chose something better. You chose to help without asking for anything in return. That is rarer than any precious metal. They walked through the palace together. Servants and nobles bowed as Arundel passed. Some still looked uncomfortable seeing their queen with a human, but most had accepted it. Change was slow, but it was happening. They reached the royal gardens. Arundel had redesigned them personally. They still floated in the air using advanced technology. But now simple support cables reinforced the anti-gravity fields. The gardens were just as beautiful as before, but they would not fall if the power fluctuated. I have been thinking, Arundel said as they sat on a bench, about the future. About us. Deho felt his heart beat faster. Good thoughts or bad thoughts? Good thoughts. Complicated thoughts. She took his hand. I am a queen. I have responsibilities to my empire, but I am also just Arundel, a woman who fell in love with a mechanic from a frontier station. Where is this going? I want you to stay, not as a guest or an advisor, as my partner, my equal. She squeezed his hand. I know it will be difficult. Our peoples are still learning to trust each other. Some will never accept a human consort to their queen, but I do not care. I choose you. Deho thought about Terminus 7, his workshop, his simple life. Then he thought about what he had built here, not just infrastructure repairs. He had helped build bridges between species. He had proven that humans had value beyond just being primitive scavengers. And most importantly, he had found something he thought he would never have after his sister died. Purpose, connection, love. I choose you too, he said. Arundel kissed him. It was not desperate like the first time. It was sure, confident, a promise for the future. Later that evening, they stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city. The sun was setting, painting the crystal towers in shades of orange and gold. But now those towers had visible support structures, metal beams and synthetic cables that made them stronger even if they were less aesthetically pure. Deho thought about the journey that had brought him here. It had started with a dying queen offering him gold. It had ended with him finding something more valuable than any fortune. He had found a place where his skills mattered, where his philosophy of making things work, of adapting and surviving was not just accepted but celebrated. What are you thinking about? Arundel asked. About hearts. Yours and mine. About how strange it is that fixing a broken heart with scrap metal led to all of this. Not strange. Perfect. The heart connects to everything. Fix the heart and everything else can follow. Is that Velshara philosophy? It is now. She leaned against him. You know, I never told you what I was thinking when I first saw you. In your workshop covered in oil, surrounded by junk, I thought you were the least impressive being I had ever met. Deho laughed. Thanks, but then you refused my gold. You looked at my dying heart and saw a problem you could solve. You did not care that I was a queen, or that failure would mean death. You just cared about helping. She touched the pendant he had made. That was when I realized that maybe humans were not primitive after all. Maybe they just measured value differently than we did. We measure it in results, not appearances. Exactly. And the results speak for themselves. She gestured at the city. 3 months ago, this empire was dying. Infrastructure failing. People afraid to change. Now we are thriving. Growing. And it started with a mechanic who used scrap metal to fix a queen. Below them, they could see mixed groups working together. Humans and Velshara side by side. Fixing problems, building new things, learning from each other. The Hybrid Initiative, as it was officially called, had become the most successful program in the Empire. Kelvaris had become one of its biggest supporters. The warrior who had fought Deho now trained mixed security teams, teaching Velshara soldiers to think like humans and human soldiers to appreciate Velshara discipline. Even some of the older nobles had come around. Not all of them. Thravik had fled to the outer territories with his supporters. But he was no longer a threat. The Empire had chosen change over stagnation. Do you ever regret it? Deho asked. Giving up your perfect empire for this messy hybrid version? Hrindel touched her chest, feeling the dual rhythm of crystal and metal, biological and mechanical, alien and human.
Never. Perfection was killing us.
This imperfect version is keeping us alive. She looked at him with those silver eyes that had seen him as both primitive and precious. You taught me that the best solutions are not the ones that look perfect. They are the ones that work when everything else fails. I was just doing what humans do. We survive, we adapt, we make it work. And sometimes, Arundel said softly, you fall in love along the way. They stood together as the sun set on Alyros, a human mechanic and an alien queen, 2 hearts beating in sync. One crystal and elegant, one crude metal and determination. Different but connected, imperfect but strong. Deho thought about the offer Arundel had made all those months ago. A fortune in gold to save her life. He had refused it, and in doing so he had gained something far more valuable. He had gained a future, not just for himself but for 2 species learning to build something new together, one improvised solution at a time. And as the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Deho realized that his sister would have been proud. He had kept his promise. He had saved a life without asking for payment. And in doing so, he had saved so much more. He had saved the possibility of something better, a galaxy where species worked together instead of staying separate, where value was measured in what you built rather than what you owned, where a queen could fall in love with a mechanic and no one thought it was strange. The hybrid heart in Arundel's chest pulsed steadily. Crystal and metal, perfect and imperfect, working together to create something neither could achieve alone, just like them. Years later, visitors to Alyros would see the memorial in the royal palace. It was a simple display behind crystal glass, a collection of scrap metal, wire, capacitors, and synthetic fiber, the original components Deho had used to save the queen. The plaque beneath it read, "The Heart of Change." Built from necessity, powered by hope. A reminder that the best solutions often come from the most unlikely places. And beside the display hung a holographic image, a human mechanic with oil-stained hands and a tired smile, standing next to an alien queen whose hybrid heart glowed with crystal and metal light. 2 people who changed a galaxy by refusing to accept that broken things must stay broken, who proved that sometimes the most valuable currency is not gold or power or perfection. Sometimes it is just the willingness to try. To build, to fix what is broken with whatever you have available, and sometimes, if you are very lucky, to fall in love along the way.